Louis XIV. Scandals, Loves and Secrets of the Sun King. Subscribe to the channel Lived History and leave a like on the video. In the golden splendor of Versailles, where elegance blends with boundless arrogance, a king stood out not only for his power, but also for his tumultuous relationships. Between exquisite dinners and sumptuous balls, Louis XIV, the Sun King, kept secrets of love that would make even the most reserved courtiers blush. And, as was to be expected, each of his love stories added a new chapter to the saga of court scandals. If you think your relationship was dramatic, know that Louis XIV took his love life to the next level, unleashing scandals that reverberated through the sumptuous halls of Versailles. Before we dive into this ocean of luxury and desire, prepare to discover the most hidden secrets of the court of the Sun King. In the sumptuous corridors of Versailles, where every glance concealed a secret, Louise de la Vallière lived the dream and nightmare of being the king's first official mistress. Unlike the ambitious women who dominated the court, Louise was sweet, shy, and ironically, reluctant to assume the role of royal favorite. But the Sun King, with his irresistible magnetism, would not accept refusal. In 1661, the young lady-in-waiting of Henrietta Anne of England, the king's sister-in-law, caught his eye and his fate was sealed. Their love was not only passion, but also a refuge for a young sovereign who found in Louise a sincere and unintrigued affection. Versailles, however, was not a place of innocence. Louise bore Louis XIV 4 children, 2 of whom were legitimized, but her splendor began to fade with the arrival of a formidable rival, Madame de Montespan. Unlike the sweet Louise, Montespan was passionate, manipulative, and determined to become the most powerful woman at court. As the new favorite gained influence, Louise was progressively humiliated. The king, once fascinated by her sweetness, began to treat her coldly. The final blow came when Louis XIV made Montespan his main mistress. Humiliated in front of the entire court, Louise took a drastic decision. She retired to a convent, abandoning luxury for prayer. But the Sun King's heart never stopped beating for new conquests. During his life, he would have at least 9 official lovers and many other suspicious relationships. If Louise de la Vallière was the embodiment of naive love, Madame de Montespan was the storm that shook Versailles. Françoise Athénaïs de Rochechouart de Mortemart was not only beautiful, she was intelligent, witty, and gifted with a sharp tongue that both enchanted and intimidated the court. When she entered the sovereign's inner circle in 1667, she already knew that her destiny would be extraordinary. Unlike Louise, who was content with the king's love, Montespan wanted power. She had 7 children with Louis XIV, all legitimate and well-placed in the nobility, thus consolidating her political influence. For over a decade she was the king's official mistress, exercising absolute dominion over the court and even political decisions. But even the most powerful woman in France was not immune to the intrigues of Versailles. Her name was implicated in the infamous poison affair, a case of poisoning and alleged witchcraft that shook the nobility. Montespan was accused of using magic potions to keep the king's love, and although she was never officially convicted, the suspicion was enough to ruin her. Louis XIV, pragmatic as ever, distanced himself from her and sought new loves. Montespan, once the most influential woman at court, fell from grace, but she was not the last to win the sovereign's heart. The Sun King, with his insatiable romantic appetite, continued to accumulate lovers, fueling gossip and scandal. If Montespan was a storm, Marie-Angélique de Scorail de Roussille, Duchess of Fontanges, was a light and tragic breeze. Young, beautiful, and naive, she enchanted Louis XIV in 1678, when she was still lady-in-waiting to her rival, Madame de Montespan. Their relationship was intense but brief, shrouded in mystery and tragedy. The Duchess of Fontanges died suddenly at the age of 20, and rumors of possible poisoning never died down. Had she been the victim of court intrigues, or simply of poor health? What is certain is that her love affair with the Sun King quickly faded away, leaving behind a shadow of enigma. Louis XIV's mistresses were not only companions of passion, but also key figures in the political dynamics of France. Each of them played a role in shaping the reign of the Sun King, amid scandals, intrigues, and struggles for power. And while Versailles continued to shine, behind its splendid tapestries, dramas worthy of the best tragedies were played out. Louis XIV, now an expert in the game of seduction, was fascinated by the purity of the young Duchess of Fontanges and quickly transformed her into his new lover. But Versailles was not a fairy tale world. Their love affair was intense but brief, and despite the king's initial passion, Marie-Angélique never managed to achieve the status and influence of Madame de Montespan. To make matters worse, her health began to mysteriously deteriorate. In 1681, at the age of 20, she died suddenly. Officially, the cause of her death was attributed to a fever, but at court there were whispers of something more sinister: poisoning. After all, Montespan was still a powerful figure and was not known for accepting rivals gracefully. There were even whispers that the court itself, annoyed by the presence of a new mistress, might have orchestrated her demise. Whatever the truth, her premature death marked one of the most enigmatic chapters in the Sun King's love life. But Louis XIV, as always, moved on. His list of conquests was far from complete. When we think of the loves of a king, we imagine fiery passions and sensational scandals. But what happens when a lover becomes, in fact, a wife? Such was the fate of Françoise d'Aubigné, the mysterious Madame de Maintenon. Unlike her predecessors, she was not distinguished by youth or extraordinary beauty, but by intelligence, patience, and above all, influence. Her rise at court began discreetly. She was the governess of the illegitimate children of Louis XIV and Madame de Montespan. Over time, however, she gained the sovereign's trust, becoming his most trusted confidant. After the death of Queen Maria Theresa of Spain in 1683, their relationship deepened. Louis, now more mature and less prone to love scandals, found in her not only a lover, but a true life companion. Shortly thereafter, they married in secret, an unprecedented gesture for a king who had spent decades immersed in the turbulent passions of the court. But if Madame de Maintenon succeeded in winning the love game, her reward was a life very different from that of her predecessors. She distanced the king from romantic extravagances and imposed a new morality at court. The era of unbridled seductions and the sumptuous intrigues of Montespan and Fontanges gave way to a more austere and devout atmosphere. Louis XIV, once the symbol of luxury and desire, spent the last years of his life in a more reflective manner. And so, ironically, the man who had collected at least 9 official mistresses, and probably many more, ended his days alongside the one woman who won his heart in a way no other had. Our journey through the loves of the Sun King comes to an end. Louis XIV was not only the most powerful sovereign of his time, but also a man of intense passions and scandals that echoed in the sumptuous halls of Versailles. His love life, studded with lovers and intrigues, reminds us that power and love have always been intertwined, especially when you are the King of France. Subscribe to the channel Lived History and let me know what you think and what topic you would like to see in the next videos. Bye.